Hi everybody, welcome back. Hope everything is going well and you've had a chance to look at some of the materials on the website, and I definitely hope that you've already taken some time to look at Module 1, What is Media, Part 1. By now you've probably thought a little bit about media, and hopefully you've already begun working on your media diary. Today in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go through some basic principles of media that will help us better think about how to think about media and not just be consumers. All right, ready? Here we go. So what we're going to do right now is go through 5 basic principles of media. And each of these media principles, as you hear them, is pretty simple. So a lot of times people are like, oh, that's simple. I don't even have to write that down. But each of these principles has a profound impact on how media functions in our society and how it functions in our own lives. So listen carefully to each of them, and I want you to think about what each of these principles means in terms of analyzing the media that you see around you. The first principle is that media is a construction. See, I told you it sounds really simple. But that means that media is always something that's made. Now, like we said last time, a lot of times when people think about the media, they talk about the media does this or the media does that. Donald Trump's always complaining about the media.
I find the political press to be unbelievably dishonest. I will say that.
But the media is not actually its own entity that does its own thing. It is actually made up of lots of people and teams of people making specific decisions about what kind of messages they want to send. For anyone out there that's ever made a video or constructed a piece of media, you know that it actually takes a lot of effort and it requires a lot of decision making. So that means that media is intentional. And that becomes really important when we start talking about race and gender later on, because often people say, oh, that message just might seem to be there, but it's not really there, it's just the media. But in fact, it's people intentionally making those decisions. So to think a little bit more about this concept, let's take a look at a painting. So this painting is called The Treachery of Images from Rene Magritte. And if you know a little bit of French, you might notice down at the bottom of the painting, it says, "This is not a pipe." And that seems kind of strange because it looks like a painting of a pipe. What I think Magritte is trying to get at here with this painting is that images are never reality, that images are only constructions of reality, made by people and therefore encoded with the ideas and values of the people that make it. So here are 3 different images of pipes, and even though all of these pipes look different, they're all images. None of them are actually pipes. The pipe at the top you'll recognize from the painting that we just talked about, The Treachery of Images. The pipe on the right looks really realistic. It's a photograph of a pipe, or a photorealistic image of a pipe. In our world, we have lots of HD images, and because these images seem so realistic, we often think that they are, but just like this pipe, they're just images. And the final image, the one on the left, is from a piece of Banksy artwork. Banksy is a street artist who uses graffiti to get people to think about social issues. And here he's playing on the Magritte painting, Treachery of Images, and making his own artwork. He's surrounded an actual pipe coming out of a building with an artistic frame and written underneath it, "This is a pipe." So in reality, if you were standing in front of that piece of artwork, you would be seeing a pipe, but here you're still seeing an image of this. Another way to think about the first principle of media, that media is a construction, is to take a look at a famous scene from The Wizard of Oz. So here's the scene from The Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy and her friends have gone to Oz. They've gotten the broom from the evil witch, and they're there before the great and powerful Oz to beg him to meet their needs. Ready? Here we go.
Do not arouse the wrath of the great and powerful Oz. I said come back tomorrow.
If you are really great and powerful, you keep your promises.
Do you presume to criticize the great Oz? You ungrateful creatures, think yourselves lucky that I'm giving you audience tomorrow instead of 20 years from now. Oh, the great Oz has spoken. Oh, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. true. There's no other wizard except me. You humbug! Yes, it's exactly so. I'm a humbug.
You're a very bad man.
So you'll notice in this video, just like in a lot of media, what seems like a big, powerful, scary image is actually just made by a person behind the scenes pushing some buttons and levers. That's a lot like the media environment that we have now. And just like in The Wizard of Oz, the majority of producers of media are white males. And so that means that the majority of our stories are being told by a very narrow part of the population. You live in a time where we're seeing a lot of change and challenge around who makes media, and a lot of different voices rushing in to make sure that they have the opportunity to be heard from their own perspective rather than through the perspective of the dominant ideology in America. So in this video, we see that media is made up. Just like the wizard, it is an image that is projected by a small group of producers. And just like in this clip from The Wizard of Oz, media often finds ways to control populations either through fear or intimidation, and people think that maybe their leaders are more powerful, more frightening, or more scary than they really are. Media is a construction. It seems very simple, but throughout the entire semester, we're going to look at the ways that media was intentionally and purposefully constructed to convey certain messages around race and a little bit of gender, so that's important to understand. The next principle that we're going to talk about is that media involves a dependent relationship between the audience and the producers. When we think about media, it's communication. Communication requires that we have a sender and receiver. We talked about that last time. If we're talking about a book, the author is the sender of the message, and on the other line is the receiver. Let's take a look at a model of communication. Here is the Shannon Weaver model of communication. This is the first model of communication that was created, and it was created by Claude Shannon to track out the pathway of a telephone call. So as we take a look at this image, we can see on the left-hand side is the source. If I'm making a telephone call, then I would be the source. Then is the transmitter. My cell phone would be the transmitter. In the middle is the message. That's what I am encoding through the transmitter across that channel, and it's coming to someone else's transistor, their cell phone. And then that person will hear the message. They are the receiver, and they will decode the message that I've sent. This makes sense for a phone call. You might notice down at the bottom there's a little red box that says noise. Back when Shannon was mapping the telephone call, there was a lot of noise. Telephone lines were actually lines that sometimes got crossed. So sometimes when you picked up the phone, you would hear someone else's conversation. And so that was considered noise. You might hear static on the line. Now with digital calling, that sounds a little bit different. But in our modern media environment, there certainly is a lot of noise that makes it difficult for messages to get from sender to receiver. If we look at who this audience is and the producers are in our own modern era, we can use this diagram to take a look at it. So first we have the producer, and the producer is the person that makes the media. And so they make a movie or a TV show, whatever kind of media it is that they create. The next part of it is the audience. So the producer makes the video or the movie, and the audience watches that video and movie. So just like in our Claude Shannon model, we have a sender and a receiver. But when we think about movies, they're really, really expensive to make. TV shows, even a web series can be incredibly expensive to produce, and it takes a whole team of people as well as all of the distribution to get that media to you. So in order to be a part of that system, there needs to be money that helps to make that process work. So in this slide, we have the creators and the consumers, but we can see that those creators and consumers are joined by the sponsors. So for example, if we think about a television show, you may watch the television show and then there's the commercial. The commercials pay money to the media outlets to produce the media, and then you get to watch the media for free, but the agreement is that you're supposed to watch the commercials. Now, we know that in this day and age, everybody tries to skip the commercials, But they keep finding ways to make us watch the commercials. And the reason that's so important is because the advertisers actually sponsor the media production. Unless we're looking at a pay service like HBO or Netflix, then networks really need advertisers in order to create movie. In terms of Netflix, you're paying your subscription helps to create original content and helps Netflix pay licensing fees to get media on the channel. So any way we look at it, the media that you consume somehow is sponsored or paid for through advertising or investors. The next concept of media is that media involves codes and languages. And this means that when sources send a message to receivers, they encode that message using symbols, colors, words. All of these are constructed ways of communicating with other people. So let's take a look at an example of a code. Are a bunch of colors. And as you can see, under each of these colors is a list of emotions, ideas, or attributes. In our culture, color plays a really important role in structuring our ideas, our moods, and our relationships. If you think about the world that you travel through, from the color of the clothes that you pick, to the color of the rooms that you're a part of, to the color of products like everything from coffee cups to cars, color is an important part of how we brand objects and how we make objects our own. Colors also have deep associations with feelings. There's millions, probably billions of dollars putting into color research to better understand how humans interact with color. We are, after all, visual animals. When we take a look at these colors, let's take a look at them again. These colors probably sound, some of these ideas underneath these colors probably sound familiar to you. That blue means loyalty, red means passion, black means danger or sophistication, green is health and natural, and also envy. Yellow is the color of sunshine and happiness. Orange is the color of health. Pink is feminine. And then purple is our color of royalty. All of these color codes are used all around you to affect your emotions and get your attention. And colors have more than one meaning. They can be very complex because, of course, each color has all sorts of shades and hues. So if we take a look at this next slide, we can see that colors here have both positive and negative associations. So when we look at media messages, we know that producers are going to use color, and we have to use our analysis skills to better understand what it is that they're saying. This is a slide of the Pantone colors. Pantone is a company that manufactures color and pigments and helps to spread it all throughout the creative environment. From homewares to fashion to clothing, they help to determine what kind of colors you see. As you see in 2013, emerald was the color of the year, and you can see the color of the year for all the other years before it. Pantone studies social changes, they study politics, the economy, the environment, and they take a read on what's happening in the culture to determine what kind of colors will appeal to people 1 year or 2 years down the line so manufacturers have enough time to get products ready.
They're so different. Something funny? No, 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 nothing's, it's just that both those belts look exactly the same to me. I'm still learning about this stuff and,
This stuff? Oh, okay. I see. You think this has nothing to do with you. You go to your closet and you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance, because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue. It's not turquoise. It's not lapis. It's actually cerulean. You're also blithely unaware of the fact that in 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns, and then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent, wasn't it, who showed cerulean military jackets? I think we need a jacket. And then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers. And then it filtered down through the department stores and then trickled on down into some tragic casual corner where you no doubt fished it out of some clearance bin. However, that blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Here's the color of the year this year. You'll notice that this year, for the first time, we have two colors, Serenity and Rose Quartz, a pink and a blue. And these colors were chosen for two reasons. One, because we live in a very tense world, so they chose some very soft colors to help calm people down. And the other reason is because we're seeing lots of changes in gender roles. And so the mixing of these two colors, or calling out these colors together, really is trying to emphasize those changes. Another kind of code or language is nonverbal communication. If we take a look at this pie chart, we can see that verbal communication is only a tiny slice of how it is that we communicate. Less than 10% of how we communicate comes across in the words that we say. The majority comes across in our tone of voice and in our nonverbals, things called our proxemics, how close or far away we stand from people, our haptics, the way that we touch people, and also the way that we position our bodies. All of those are ways that communicate with people. For example, think about your mother calling your name when she's angry. I'm sure she has a pretty sharp tone with you. Susan Jane, get down here. And so tone of voice is an important part of it. You know, if you've ever sent a text that's been misunderstood, that sometimes when tone is missing from words, people might miss our meaning. Another part of it is nonverbals, and that's how we position our body. So here's an image of a body position that's a pretty strong position. This is called the Wonder Woman pose. And as you can read on the slide here, there are some people that say that standing in this position, it can help give you a boost of confidence. When we take a look at the body here, we can see that her body is taking up lots of space. Her arms are open and on her hips, creating her body creating this idea that her body is kind of winging out, taking up space. Her legs are spread shoulder widths apart, and that also means that she's taking up a lot of space here. And she has a pretty confident look. She has one foot directed directly at whomever she's looking at, putting some energy towards there, and she has one foot pointed the other way. Body positioning can be really important. If we take a look at these next two groups of poses, we can see men posed in what are called high power and low power poses. So as we take a look at these poses, we can certainly see the high-powered poses, people are taking up more space. So in both situations, the man has his legs spread and his arms out in wings, just like our Wonder Woman. And on the other side, in our low-power poses, we can see that he's drawn his arms into the body. Wrapping the arms around the body or touching yourself is an indicator of a desire for comfort. Even when people are nervous and you see them rubbing their hands like this is called a self-touch gesture. Sometimes when people are speaking and they're nervous and they want to hide it, you'll see them put their hands behind their back, but they're touching their hands behind the back. So you know that they're a little nervous because they're still holding their own hand. One last kind of codes that we'll spend a lot of time looking at this semester is stereotypes. Stereotypes are a way of looking at a particular group of people or individuals and attributing to them a whole host of characteristics and physical qualities. Stereotypes are constructions, just like every other part of media. They are codes. They are actually not true. I want to say that again. Stereotypes are never true. Just like our pipe, they're always constructions. So when anybody says to you, well, sometimes stereotypes are true, there are always going to be people that may fit a certain set of characteristics. But the idea of a stereotype, that one kind of type will fit all groups of people, is absolutely not true. And we'll talk about that later in the semester. The next concept of media that we're going to talk about is that media is commercial in nature. That means media is always asking us to exchange something for the time that we're spending with it. Let's take a look. All right, this seems pretty simple. We're looking at a Tide bottle. This is a commercial product, so it's pretty easy to guess what they want us to do. Take a guess. That's right. They want you to buy laundry detergent, and they want you to buy their particular brand of laundry detergent. If we take a look again, we can see that the image is a very bright image with a bright orange, denoting a healthy, bright color, and blue, the color of cleanliness. We remember that from our color codes. We also see that it has a big bullseye with a sunny yellow and orange in the middle, telling us that it will target any stains and get them super clean. Let's take a look at another image and see if we can figure out what they want from us. That's right, he wants your vote. And he's using signs and speeches and all sorts of campaign messages to attract people's attention. I don't have to tell you that we're in a season now where there are a lot of people trying to attract your attention, and so be careful who you pay with your vote. The next thing that we're going to look at is something called mind share. All right, the next thing that we're going to talk about is mindshare. So here is an ad, and this is from Amnesty International to bring attention to China's human rights abuses in advance of the Beijing Olympics. Now, they're not asking you to vote, and they're not asking you to buy a product, so what's the deal here? It's something that's called mindshare. They want you to tuck this idea into your brain, and then when they need it, that you'll get it out. So perhaps somebody's going to ask you to sign a petition, or you're going to watch a news story and have the opportunity to share information with someone else about, hey, did you know that China has this stuff going on? So mind share is the amount of space in your brain that you devote to an idea or a concept. And sometimes we have ideas that are in our brain that we can't get back out. Think about a song that you don't like, but that you know the words to, like that Friday song by Rebecca Black.
It's Friday, Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend, Friday, Friday.
Nobody liked the song, but we all knew the words to it. The song got stuck in our heads, and now we can't get it back out. The last concept that we have is that media selectively expresses values. And that means that media expresses the values of the people that encoded the message. We're going to talk a lot about that this semester. So stay tuned, keep reading your articles, and keep thinking about whose messages and whose values are being selected to communicate with you through messaging. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Friday, Friday, gotta